What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake and Dr. Ethan Turner back at you here, week 7, talking injuries. And yeah, I mean, everybody likes to give me a hard time, and this week it's Ethan. He decided to throw a little curl down in front just to prove to me that I can't grow a curl. Ethan, how we doing?
I'm doing great, man. The curls are they're out. The hair's getting long for the winter. I have to get ready. And when my hair gets long, it gets curly. So that's just how it works.
So we'll all deal with it in the meantime, I guess is what you're saying.
Yeah, you're just going to have to deal.
Oh, perfect. All right, well, hey, typically we start these shows off with a moment of silence, Ethan, but you know what? We have no moment of silence. However, we are going to be proactive here because we like to say that we're ahead of the curve, right? So
Yes.
I kind of want to do a preemptive moment of silence, not in a bad way, but everybody's thoughts and prayers needs to go out to Josh Jacobs because his entire offensive line just got put on COVID reserve, and that's an issue.
That's a huge issue for Josh Jacobs, Derek Carr, whoever they're going to find off the street to be offensive linemen this week. Let's just have a quick moment of silence to appreciate the sacrifices those dudes are making because it could get really ugly.
Yeah. I feel bad when that news came across the wire. I was like, you got to be kidding. This is a joke. Somebody's joking, but no, not joking. All of them on the COVID list. Whether they play or not, we will soon find out. But let's go ahead and head into the first part of the injuries here. Some of our big hitters, as you like to call them, because there's a few names that we still need to discuss that a lot of people have questions about here this week for their fantasy football rosters. And the first one, it's going to be Joe Mixon, Cincinnati Bengals. Not the easiest of matchup for him this week anyway, but he's still hobbled. What do we think about Mixon?
Yeah, Mixon is dealing with a foot sprain of some sort. He missed parts of the game last week, and he did manage to return. That's always a good sign that he was able to return, especially with a foot injury. If it was something significant, they would not have put him back out there. Obviously, there's not a way to protect the foot on the football field. And so it's good to see that he got back out there. He is missing some practice time this week. He might not be at 100%, probably looking closer at like 75% this week, but I do think he's going to end up playing. So that's good for fantasy. You're going to probably have to start him. Most teams are not going to have the option of sitting Joe Mixon, but just know that you're probably not getting 100% of Joe Mixon this week.
Yep, agreed. And I had a couple questions already this week saying, hey, if Mixon sits, do I start Gio Bernard? And honestly, I hope you have better options than Gio Bernard at this point. If he does sit, I'm not on the bandwagon of just throwing Gio Bernard in. Obviously not expecting the same type of production as Joe Mixon either.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we saw it last week with Alexander Madison. It's not always a 1-for-1. There's a reason that these dudes are not the starter, that they're not the bell cow. It's because they're just not as good as the guys that they're going to come in to try to replace. And so I think we get a little too hyped up about some of these backups that have, Gio Bernard is a guy that's been around the league for a while now. He's definitely got some fans that think that Gio is starter worthy, especially as a pass catching back. But you have to understand that he is not Joe Mixon. So if Joe Mixon sits, don't expect Gio Bernard to have some type of crazy game. You have to temper those expectations.
Yep, agreed. What about Michael Thomas? This one's been teased for weeks, it feels like, and now he's popping up on the injury report with new injuries, and there's been drama in the locker room. I mean, this is just turning into a ginormous headache with Michael Thomas.
This is not going well for anyone that has Michael Thomas on fantasy. I feel bad. He looked like he was going to come back from the high ankle sprain. Then we found out he punched a teammate, and now he's popped up again with a new injury in practice this week. He's dealing with a hamstring strain. You have to wonder if this maybe isn't a compensatory injury based on that previous high ankle sprain that he was dealing with. It is not uncommon when guys miss chunks of time when they first come back to pull a hamstring. And I think that's what happened with Michael Thomas. Obviously, the question is, will he play? I am not banking on him returning this week. I think this is, again, the team is going to be cautious with him. Obviously, he's got some issues that he needs to work out with his teammates. But from an injury perspective, you don't want to push these hamstring strains because they can be a real – now he's got 2 injuries, high ankle and a hamstring strain, that are both notorious for being a pain to recover from. So I think they're going to give him more time, and it sucks for fantasy. But ultimately, if you want him to be able to play for your fantasy team in the fantasy playoffs, you're going to accept that this is just what has to happen.
Yep, you may be without Slant Boy for a couple more weeks. What about Christian McCaffrey? Another name we've been talking about here for a few weeks. We kind of got some, I don't want to call it disturbing news, but, kind of just a little bit of a gut punch with Christian McCaffrey here this past week.
Yeah, I was really hoping McCaffrey would be back soon. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case. The timeline for him returning has actually been pushed back, possibly due to the consistent play of Mike Davis. It's hard to say whether or not that plays a role. I tend to think that it does. If you have a capable backup that's playing well, there's no reason to rush a superstar like Christian McCaffrey. Now the team is eyeing a week 10 return for McCaffrey. Again, not ideal. You don't love to see that for fantasy, but there is a decent chance that he will play in the fantasy playoffs. But don't forget, this team does have a week 13 bye, which is going to probably cut into a few fantasy matchups. And without Christian McCaffrey all year, there's a good chance that you're not going to be able to hit that first week bye, and you might be without him regardless of if he comes back.
Yeah, that hurts because a lot of people hoping for the better news here, getting him back week 6, 7, 8, just didn't seem to happen. What about our boy Jay Smooth, Jonnu Smith, tight end, Tennessee Titans? Does it look like he's going to be on the field this weekend?
Johnny was dealing with an ankle sprain. It's a low ankle sprain. The MRI did show that it's a minor sprain. So you're looking at about a grade 1, which is positive news. There is a chance that they could tape this up because it is a low ankle sprain. If you want more on that, we did a whole video this summer on the difference between a high and a low ankle sprain. But with low ankle sprains, you can tape them up. You can provide some stability artificially for that ligament that was torn. But the team could exercise some caution, give him a week off. I do think they end up doing that. They let him sit. Anthony Fursker, and I hope I'm saying that last name right. I guess he does have a little bit of tight end 2 value. We know that they are spreading the ball all over the place. Ryan Tannehill is balling right now. And so there is a chance for Fursker, who has shown a little bit of upside in the red zone. If he catches a touchdown, he's a tight end 1. If he catches 3 passes, he's a tight end 2. So I'm not really saying much there. Just know that if Johnny were to play, his upside is going to be limited. He is not going to be at 100%. You're probably looking at closer to a 60% return. The biggest problem is going to be that explosion. That Jonnu Smith is one of the most explosive tight ends in the league right now, and that explosion may not be there if he tries to play through this injury this week. So just kind of keep that aware. Obviously, you're starting him if he's playing, but just know that, again, you're probably not going to get the best Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, agreed. What about, this one hurts me because I was a big fan of Raheem. I am a must-start Mostert, and losing him for a few weeks, that one hurts. I mean, he was one of the most explosive running backs. I kind of compared him at times to like an Aaron Jones because he didn't need the volume to put up huge numbers. And then in a week where he sees huge volume in the first half, he gets hurt and crushes my dreams.
I will actually take partial blame for this. I traded for Raheem Mostert in our fantasy headliners dynasty league, and that was a death sentence for him, obviously. Mm-hmm. I'm a big Mostert fan. He's dealing with a high ankle sprain. Again, check our video from this summer if you want to know the difference anatomically. I'm not going to get into it right now, but just know it's a different type of injury. Now the 49ers are going to be without their lead back for some time. Normal recovery for this is about 3 to 6 weeks. Kyle Shanahan has actually already come out and said that he expects Mostert to end up on the IR. Again, that's a guaranteed 3 weeks missed. Usually we're seeing those guys miss at least 4 weeks when they go onto the IR, regardless of if they can return in 3. This is a bummer. I mean, it's definitely a bummer. You're looking at JaMychal Hasty maybe being the hot hand in San Francisco right now, a rookie. Obviously, Jerick McKinnon, if you picked him up, once again, is going to have a solid PPR floor. He is a flex-worthy play at running back without Mostert in. But again, you hate to see it. We want these guys to be healthy. He's a guy that I had a lot invested in, and it's a bummer.
It really pisses me off that you ruined this for us, Ethan.
You let me know in the comments if you think that it's my fault. I did trade for Raheem Mostert specifically this week, and he immediately got hurt. And if that's not karma, nothing is.
Exactly. Absolutely. All right. So those were a few of the big hitters, but now it's time to move into a rapid fire because we've been going here almost 10 minutes. So let's get a bunch of names out here as quick as possible and get a quick update on them. Let's start with what about the Cleveland Browns? I mean, we got a few guys, right? We got Baker Mayfield, Kareem Hunt, and Jarvis Landry.
Mayfield is dealing with a chest rib contusion. He's been dealing with this for a few weeks now. Kareem Hunt this is a new one. He's also dealing with a chest injury. Not really much going out on this. It could be a rib contusion. It could be a cracked rib. We're not totally sure. Jarvis Landry, again, still dealing with the recovery from his hip surgery in the offseason, and he's got a little bit of a banged up knee. All these guys were limited in practice, but I do expect them all to play. If there's one that I'd have to say I'm a little bit more concerned with, it's Kareem Hunt, and that's just because it's a newer injury. And we haven't seen with Mayfield and Landry, we've seen them be limited in practice and play. We have not seen that with Kareem Hunt yet. So we're going to be watching him a little bit more closely, but I think all of these guys have a pretty good shot of playing this week, regardless of if they are playing at 100%.
Yeah, because with all these injuries and bye weeks, people need Kareem Hunt to be Kareem Hunt this week. And so whatever you do, don't go trading for Kareem Hunt this week, okay? Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it, Ethan. You're forbidden to go out and get Kareem Hunt. What about Julio Jones? Julio Jones kind of played the rope-a-dope with us last week, didn't he?
Yeah, this was a big miss for me. I'll be honest. I said don't start Julio. You win some, you lose some when you're playing a game with a guy with Julio's background. He's going to hurt you. Hopefully you guys ended up starting him and you said, forget about this Ethan guy. He doesn't know anything. I will say that I was right about DJ Chark, but I was completely wrong about Julio Jones. He's still dealing with a hamstring strain. He actually missed practice to begin the week. I don't expect anything to come of this. They're still letting him recover. He's a veteran. He doesn't need to be practicing like everybody else does. The team is just being careful. I expect him ready to play this week, and I think you could start him with confidence this week, especially after he blew up on me last week.
Yeah, he was trolling everybody too last week, though. Did you see him hobbling off the field with the help of somebody, and then all of a sudden he just started walking normally just to mess with people? Yeah, it's a game.
I think he actually tagged me in that on Twitter, so that made me feel good.
It's like the virtual finger for you. Okay, what about Marvin Jones of the Detroit Lions?
Jones has missed practice early in the week. He's dealing with a knee injury. Don't forget that he actually missed most of the end of last season with a knee injury. He's been pretty bad for the last 2 weeks. I'll be honest. I don't think that you should be playing him in any fantasy lineups, regardless of if he plays. I think there is a chance that he plays, but I just don't think it's a strong start. So sit Marvin Jones, wait it out a week or two and see if he can't get it right. I almost wonder if this isn't an injury that has been nagging him for a while, and now we're starting to see the actual repercussions of it in practice.
Yep, that would actually make some sense. Maybe this is part of the reason he's been struggling here for a few weeks. What about Julio's teammate, Calvin Ridley?
Ridley's dealing with an elbow injury. Not much else I could find on this as far as what exactly is wrong with the elbow, but he was limited in practice. I don't really think there's anything to indicate that he won't play this week, but it's at least worth watching. He could be one of those that just out of nowhere gets scratched and you're wondering, well, what the heck? We didn't hear anything about this. It's probably due to this elbow injury. But again, I don't expect that to happen, but just kind of keep an eye on it. Make sure that you have a backup plan in case for some reason Ridley is a late scratch.
Now, you being a Steelers fan and all, I would like some positive news surrounding Deontay Johnson, who I still feel may be the number one wide receiver in Pittsburgh when he's healthy. Does it look like we could get him back this week?
I do think we're going to get him back this week. He's been dealing with a back injury. He missed last week, but is expected to return this week. He got full practices in to start the week, which is always a great indicator that he is ready to play. I'm a little concerned just because the back is a tricky thing. You can feel great one day, and then anyone with back pain will tell you it can turn real quick and become an issue. So I hope that doesn't happen with Deontay. I'm going to say right now, based on what we know, there's a good chance that he will play and be good to go for fantasy.
Perfect. What about Sammy Watkins of the Kansas City Chiefs? I don't know how much this one really, really matters for a lot of people, but Sammy was getting a lot of targets and now injured again.
This is the story of Sammy Watkins. Hamstring strain. He missed practice Wednesday. I don't expect him to play this week. Mecole Hardman has some good long shot value, but I'm not really comfortable starting him. I'll be honest. I'm not on the Hardman bandwagon. I don't like betting on a 1 to 3 play touchdown, huge touchdown. Obviously, Hardman has that ability. But every other Chief should be good to go. And I'm curious to see how Lev Bell mixes into this backfield, because obviously that's going to be the story heading into this week, not that Sammy Watkins is hurt again.
Yeah, with Bell there in Kansas City, nobody cares about Sammy right now. What about Leonard Fournette in Tampa Bay?
Fournette actually wasn't listed on the injury report at all this week. Remember, he's been dealing with an ankle injury. Because he wasn't listed at all, you can expect him to be more involved this week. Obviously, Ronald Jones is still going to be the guy carrying most of the load. But if Leonard Fournette is 100% healthy, he could start gaining chunks of this backfield. I don't think that Ronald Jones has been particularly explosive in the pass game. So I'm curious to see if they can work Leonard Fournette into that role specifically as we move forward. Again, not starting him for fantasy this week, but it's good to know that he's at least healthy enough to not be on the injury report anymore.
And you got to remember, with Bruce Arians, I don't want to say there's just no loyalty because I love him as a coach, but if Fournette goes out and starts balling, he's going to get more touches, not just because Rojo's been playing great for a couple weeks, means that he automatically keeps everything. So, yeah, definitely something to watch here the next week or so. What about Noah Fant? We're in desperate need of some solid tight ends out there. Do we get him back?
I actually don't think we get him back. He's still dealing with the ankle sprain, and it doesn't look like he's going to be ready to play this week. He is getting some limited practice in, but he got limited practice in last week and didn't play. Maybe he gets a full practice in, and then you can trust him. Again, I think there's a chance he plays, but I don't think you're going to get 100%. And I always worry about that. Obviously, with tight ends, you're going to take whatever you can get as far as fantasy points. And if Noah Fant plays, you're probably going to have to play him. But I just don't feel great about him this week.
What about another tight end, Robert Tonyan of the Packers?
Yeah, so this one is kind of an interesting one because I feel like, there's part of me that just still doesn't believe that he is going to be, a viable tight end option. But every time he seems to, it's just like anything with Green Bay. If you have Aaron Rodgers' ear and he is your boy, he will throw you the ball. And so with Tonyan, he has not been practicing the last 2 practices. He tweaked his ankle. I don't expect him to play. And so with Devontae Adams being back in the mix, even if he did play, I still think Adams is going to be, that is Aaron Rodgers' binky. So Aaron Rodgers is going to go back to his binky. He's going to go with the guys he loves. He's going to go with Aaron Jones. He's going to go with Devontae Adams. I think Tonyan may have been a little bit of a flash in the pan if he plays, but I don't expect him to.
Plus, in a matchup this week like they have, Aaron Jones could be relied on heavily in the running game, and they can control this game on the ground. They may not have to throw it as much. Last 2 on the list, a couple of Chargers, Keenan Allen and Justin Jackson's the last one we have here to wrap up the show.
Keenan Allen actually left. They were on bye last week, but 2 weeks ago he left the game with back spasms. And so what happens with a back spasm is there's an injury, or perhaps it was a dehydration issue. A lot of times not the case with players. Usually there's an injury and then the muscle actually spasms or contracts and kind of holds itself. It's very painful. Anyone who's ever had back spasms will tell you, very uncomfortable. The problem is that I would have expected this to have resolved. This shouldn't have been an issue. Normally, if there was nothing really wrong and it was just, kind of a fluky thing, Keenan Allen would have been back to practice, and he's not. He's still having back issues. There's still a good chance he plays, but I don't know if we can trust him 100%. It's very difficult with a back spasm, you could be, fine one play and then miserable and out of the game the rest of the game for the next play. If he plays and he looks like he's healthy in practice on Friday, Saturday, the news is good, feel good playing him. If the news is still kind of wishy-washy like what it is right now, don't feel good playing him. So it's really up to you to decide as we get closer. A great reason you should be a Patreon member, because the Patreon members are going to be getting updates on these guys right up to the games. So they have a direct line to me, and so I will be able to keep them and more informed than anyone else. And they love that. And so that's a great member. That's a great perk to be a Patreon member if you're not already. Justin Jackson, on the other hand, he's banged up. He's dealing with a knee injury. This is a team that's going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who allowed the 5th most rushing yards to opponents. And this is a smash spot if Justin Jackson is healthy. If he's not healthy, we're going to see more Josh Kelly. If we see more Josh Kelly, there's a chance that Josh Kelly can grind this out and be the guy that you want to start. I'm going to say with Justin Jackson being hurt, that's where I'm leaning, is actually fading towards Josh Kelly. But again, if he plays, they're both decent starts because the Jaguars can't stop anybody.
No, it's a great matchup for both of them. And before the bye week, it looked like it had been Justin Jackson as the leader in the clubhouse here for the backfield there. But if he does miss some time or he's not 100%, like you just mentioned, do not be surprised if Josh Kelly comes in here and just chips away at it a little bit at a time. Well, Ethan, overall, not the worst list we've had, right? This is actually a little bit better than the past few weeks. You're progressively bringing more and more good news to the people. I'm sure they enjoy it, Ethan.
I mean, I can't just be the bearer of bad news.
No. You're also the bearer of the curl.
Oh, yes.
I mean, I have never had the curl ever. Even when I had hair, I didn't have the curl.
I mean, I probably have enough hair. I could get you hooked up.
Just give me a little bit up top.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little dusting of it. All right. Anyway, this is disgusting.
They don't care about our hair.
They don't care. No, that's not why they watch this show. Absolutely not. But hey, like Ethan said, there's updates coming the rest of the weekend, all the way through the weekend, up until game time over on our Patreon channel. Plus, we'll try to do our best to keep it updated here in the comment section if we hear any big news. But we greatly appreciate the support. The channel continues to grow, and we look forward to talking to you guys this weekend on the live stream Saturday night. If Ethan has any big nuggets to drop, he'll drop them into my DMs, and I'll make sure I'll share it with you then. But like you said, best way to get that information is over on Patreon. The link is down below in the description. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We look forward to hearing from you later. Have a good one. Thanks. Bye.